10 people were taken to hospital by ambulance and another person self-presented later that evening. While 9 were initially believed to have life-threatening injuries, following assessment and treatment, 4, thankful to say, have been discharged. However, 2 patients remain in a life-threatening condition. British Transport Police declared a major incident yesterday, and counter-terrorism policing were initially supporting our investigation. However, at this stage, there is nothing to suggest that this is a terrorist incident. This is a British Transport Police investigation, and we continue to work to establish at pace the full circumstances and the motivations that have led to this incident.
The police confirming that there's nothing to suggest at the moment that what happened in Huntingdon was a terror attack. Some people are desperate to call it a terror attack, and I think a lot of people misunderstand the definition of that word. Of course, the passengers and the victims were all terrified by the incident, but it can only be described as a terror attack if it is ideologically motivated. If you are using violence to achieve a political or an ideological goal, then that is when we would use the definition terrorism. One piece of evidence that points towards the fact that it may have been terrorism is this little chunk of information that's come out. The devil is not going to win. Train attacker told passengers, the devil is not going to win. If you are committing an act of violence and you start talking about the devil, doesn't that suggest that you're bringing religion into it, and that this perpetrator might have been religiously motivated? Here's the couple that reported that quote. Huntingdon knife attack suspect told the victim, the devil is not going to win, as she begged for her life. Horrific. Now, there's been report, and look, you should really wait for the dust to settle before you address topics like this. Richie Allen made a brilliant post, and he's a great journalist. The way to do it is to wait until we know all the facts, because the police can come out and say one thing, it's definitely not terrorism, or there's definitely no evidence for that as of yet. That may change tomorrow. So really, we need to be careful about what we say and what we don't say, but this just leapt out to me as being relevant. The fact that one of the attackers, I say one of the attackers because 2 people were arrested. Do you know, I think only one of them remains under arrest. Let's listen again to the police. 2 people were initially detained, and I think only one of them remains in custody, if I am correct. What does the policeman say?
10 people were taken to hospital by ambulance and another person self-presented later that evening. While 9 were initially believed to have life-threatening injuries, following assessment and treatment, 4, thankful to say, have been discharged. However, 2 patients remain in a life-threatening condition. British Transport Police declared a major incident yesterday, and counter-terrorism policing were initially supporting our investigation. However, at this stage, there is nothing to suggest that this is a terrorist incident.
Okay, he doesn't mention how many were arrested. What about in this clip? Let's have a look.
Within 8 minutes of the 999 call being made, 2 men were brought into police custody, where they remain this morning. I can tell you that these are the first male, a 32-year-old male, a black British national, and a 35-year-old man, a British national of Caribbean descent. They were both arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. Both were born in the United Kingdom. As stated, they remain this morning in separate police stations for questioning.
I find it odd that they're bringing up the race of these two individuals and the fact that they're British nationals and they were born in the United Kingdom. And he describes the first suspect, if we're going to call them that, as a black man, and then the second person is of Caribbean heritage. I mean, you could be Caribbean and not be black. I sense they are reporting how the two suspects self-identified when they were arrested. And Slay All Day 67 says hi. Hello Slay All Day. And Mushroom Man 0936 is here as well. Very welcome to you and anyone that wants to say anything. If you want to leave a voice note on WhatsApp, I will play it and we can listen to your thoughts on what's gone on. But as I say, we have to tread very carefully with what we allege. And got another video clip for you. Get rid of this one. You get many clips uploaded to Twitter. This is footage of the arrest.
I've got a proper shaky arm.
There you go. So shaky amateur footage. When it was two people arrested, that to me sounded like terror. Two people working together. It would be a bit of a coincidence for like a random fight to turn into such a mass attack. Thankfully, it seems that no one has passed away yet. But now the fact that possibly only one of them was involved, that could be a lunatic on his own. That could be a terrorist on his own. I saw a lot of people questioning whether will it be blamed on mental health and it's really terrorism. Well, you could be mentally ill and be a terrorist. Being mentally ill might cause you to become a terrorist or turn to extremism, extreme views. Again, we don't know that that's what happened here. I've only got the shred of evidence that someone mentioned the devil allegedly when the attack took place. Shabana Mahmood, MP, says on the matter, I am deeply saddened to hear about the stabbings in Huntingdon. My thoughts go out to all those affected. 2 suspects have been immediately arrested and taken into custody. I am receiving regular updates on the investigation. I urge people to avoid comment and speculation at this early stage. I know, well, as I say, well, she's speculating, isn't she? She's commenting. Why is an MP making a comment and urging others not to? And Darren Grimes responded, I think the country is a bit beyond hearing about deeply saddened Labour politicians, to be honest. And of course, Darren Grimes is from Reform UK. And there's another image. This looks like the moment that the police arrived. Apparently the train driver was a bit of a hero. The LNR train driver praised as a hero for keeping the train running, and he is actually an Iraq war veteran, Andrew Johnson, who became a train driver in 2018. Yeah, I think he diverted the train to Huntingdon, actually, meaning that the emergency services could get there quick enough to save lives. Let's read some more response on Twitter. Konstantin Kissin, he's that, I think he's of a Russian background, British journalist, Konstantin Kissin. He said, I don't want thoughts and prayers. I don't want to hear about diversity being our greatest strength. What's that got to do with it? I don't want to know about communities coming together. I want every single foreign criminal out. But they weren't foreign, were they? These were British citizens or British nationals and born in the UK. What is the difference between a British citizen and a British national? Do they mean the same thing? Here's an eyewitness statement. Dana said, I was running, and when I looked back I saw the knife man running after me. I fell down and just said, please don't. Something shifted in his face and he just carried on. He said, the devil is not going to win. Yeah. So look, not only does mentioning the devil mean that it could be ideologically based, and look, I mean, if you refer to the devil as the devil, that sounds like the Christian Bible, doesn't it? Other religions have other, or if you speak English and you read the Bible in English, that sounds like the King James Version of the Bible. Other religions have other names and other words for the devil. But also, I think when you start bringing up the devil, equally, that could be a mental health issue. And a lot of people with who end up in that state, as I say, can get wound up in religion and going deep into the ideology of it. But yeah, certainly if you talk about the devil, I would think we're coming at it from a Christian background. Unless someone disagrees with me, unless someone knows something I don't know, and if you want to tell me about it, you can send me a message, send me a voice note. I'm not going to save your number, it's a number that I only use for these live streams anyway. You'd be welcome to, if you want to, no pressure. The devil is not going to win, train attacker told passengers. Yeah, the knife-wielding attacker told passengers the devil is not going to win as he launched a rampage on high-speed train to London. That appears to be a photograph of him carrying a knife. Yeah, I think we're talking about just one attacker, aren't we? I don't think it was two people working together. Yeah, I know it's a bit of a depressing one on a Sunday night. I do want to talk about other topics at some point. We do need to talk about Sudan. We do need to talk still about what's happening in Gaza, but as this is the main news at home, I think it's worth a mention. This train driver, Andrew Johnson, he is going to get some kind of an award, I hope. He's already got a couple of medals from his time in Iraq, but some people are questioning the story. He didn't divert the train. Huntingdon is on the main line from Scotland. it wasn't scheduled to stop at Huntingdon, but the driver stopped the train there to allow the police to intervene. Okay, so maybe he didn't divert the train, but he made an emergency stop. Have you ever been in a situation like this at work when faced with a violent attacker, especially if it's not typically what you expect to happen in your line of work? I mean, I've never had an incident as bad as that, but I did work in security, and you kind of expected that, you know, the worst case scenario, someone might come at you with a weapon. I did have a few people approach me with bottles when working in security, and I did see one weapon one time, quite a lethal weapon, and it wasn't pointed at me, but it was on the side of someone on a motorbike who returned to a venue. But yeah, I don't want to go into that. It's all give me flashbacks. But yeah, I would, you know, you never know how you're going to react in a situation like this until it happens. So well done to the train driver, and thank God it seems that no one's been killed. I'm waiting for the conspiracy theorists to come forward and say, oh no, this is not real, it's a false flag attack, they are just crisis actors. Whenever something like this happens, there's always people that have to, and I get it, because I question a lot of the mainstream narrative, and I think we should question, but your default position doesn't always have to be no, that's not real, no, this didn't really happen. And again, I say we're treading carefully here, because you don't know the veracity of what gets shared, especially on Twitter. Look, this is said to be an image of the attacker. Who gets time to take a photo when incidents like this are happening? I know we're all on our phones all the time, and it's good in a way and it's bad in other ways. Everything gets documented by people that could be stepping in to help. Instead they're pointing their camera at the incident. Trevor Ketley says hi. Good evening, Trevor, if it is the evening where you are. And do you think this is a pattern? Is it increasing? Are we not safe anywhere we go now? I hear a lot of alarmism and panic. Is it really the case that we in the UK are now less safe? Are things like this happening more often, or are we just being told that they are? Tommy Robinson, Helmway Racist, is saying on Twitter, police now say there's only one suspect. There you go. Tommy is up to date, apparently. Police now say there's only one suspect in Huntingdon mass train stabbing, ? So who was the other British-born suspect they emphasised so much about? Why is there no footage from anyone released? It's all very smoke and mirrors. Okay, Tommy's going a little bit conspiratorial there. Vido Tasso is saying nothing ever happens. Well, that's a big conspiracy theory, Vido. Nothing happens. Tommy Robinson also says, and he's mentioning the train driver, the hero train driver who helped save passengers' lives during a knife attack in Huntingdon is a Royal Navy and Iraq War veteran. He rapidly diverted the train. Yeah, he either rapidly diverted it or he stopped it at the right time, emergency stop. But yeah, Tommy Robinson's obviously proud of a British soldier, and Tommy Robinson has recently been visiting the Middle East, where an Israeli told him that the UK has a special place in hell. It was interesting to hear that and to see his reaction or lack thereof. Yeah, the Defence Secretary has said that British public should be more vigilant. Is it up to us to be vigilant, to watch out for things like this? Yeah, and Tommy Robinson again saying police are not treating the random stabbing of 10 people on a train as terrorism at this point. Well, until we know, we don't know. And Andrew Neil points out the legal definition of terrorism in the UK is roughly the use of violence in pursuit of a political, ideological, religious or ethnic cause. Yeah, that's what I said earlier on. So we can't pronounce it as such until we find proof that that's what's gone on. A lot of people desperate for it to be terrorism. Well, it might be, it might not be. Bushra Sheikh is saying that they were British born, they were not Muslim, apparently. We don't know if we know that yet, but as I said, the language used would suggest possibly not. Homegrown violence. This is what happens when our political class obsess over the whodunit and not prevention. Yeah, are we falling into the trap of being more concerned about who did it than how we can prevent it next time? How can we create a society, a world where nobody wants to do something like this? It's not easy. A police update. 5 casualties have now been discharged from hospital and 1 remains in life-threatening condition. Yeah. Detectives have reviewed the CCTV from the train and it's clear that the driver made a heroic decision under pressure. Gosh, I hope he's alright. That would be horrific if he wound up the only permanent casualty. This happened the other day, didn't it? Someone tried to step in and do the right thing and then wound up losing their life. There's a clip that I've got on the screen now. I can't show it on the screen. It would get the video taken down, but it appears to show what happened on the train. And the knife is a huge knife. It looks like it's 1.5 foot long. And there are people sat on the train while the incident is happening. I'm trying to just verify if this is recent or this is old footage. This sort of terrible incident has happened on our trains before. A young man was okay. So on another occasion, a young man was stabbed 20 times, and people sat and watched. I guess what can you do if you are not armed and someone else is? Can you really step in? Hand on heart, we'd all like to think that we would be a hero, but in reality, would you really do that? Yeah, I don't know. Sad times. James Harvey is pointing out that Tommy Robinson refused to hand over his PIN number to the police. Yeah. Slaughtering innocent people with knives is a common occurrence now in Britain. That's a comment from Saba Crosby. Is it how common is it? Much more common than before? What are the statistics? What statistics are we going on here? I've got one more clip that I can show you guys, and we've got an eyewitness. That might be worth watching. I'm just going to get the clip up for you one moment. Yeah, let's find out what someone saw.
I was in Coach H. I was literally just listening to Audible on my phone, and then I had guys suddenly run past, going, "Run, run!" There's a guy stabbing literally everyone, everything. There was a few of us kind of looking at each other, like thinking, was it a joke? Like, it's Halloween, I'll be pranking. But then you could kind of see in their faces they were being serious. I kind of got my stuff and I was running, and everyone was really pushing behind us, really panicking. And at this point, I was kind of asking questions like, "What's happening? Like, who is it?" And they were like, "A guy's just stabbing everyone back there." Put my hand on this chair, like just trying to push myself forward. And then I look at my hand and it's covered in blood. And then I look at the chair and there's blood all over the chair. And I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty serious. So some of the guys that had ran through to kind of alert us to run, they were the ones who had also been stabbed. So we're running over and getting to the end of the carriage, still trying to work out who is it, what's their intentions, what's their motives. I just knew they were stabbing everyone. And someone kind of said they thought they had a gun. Pulled the emergency alarm and just trying to work out, can we barricade the doors, can we lock the doors, but we couldn't really. And then by the time I got to the end of the carriage, I realised I was actually at the back of it, and there was about 6 of us. There was a girl, bless her, who was really, really in a bit of a state because the guy had actually tried to stab her, and one of the older guys, who's an absolute hero, blocked it with his head, and he's got this like gash. He had this gash on his head. He's got I think, a gash on his neck, and he's kind of we're kind of giving him like our jackets to keep the pressure on the blood. And while we're doing that, there's a person that I know, and he's kind of looked at me and gone like, "Have you got anything we can use in case he comes through?"
There's at least 10 ambulances, 12 ambulances.
We had a Jack Daniels bottle between us, and that was it. So we're kind of sitting there with one Jack Daniels bottle, just looking down the end of this carriage, just praying somebody doesn't walk down with a knife, with a gun. We didn't really know what was going on.
Wow, that is pretty horrific. And he is a very eloquent young man to be able to relate that story and be sat there on the train with a bottle. Sounds like something out of what we're told happened on flight 93. So look, yeah, well done to him. Obviously a lot of people are blaming Keir Starmer for allowing this to happen. Can the Prime Minister really prevent something like this? Nicholas Lisak is saying, let's be honest, if you storm a train and carry out mass stabbing on innocent people, you're a terrorist. It's simple as that. Well, it's not as simple as that, because without a political or religious ideology, it's just not terrorism. There are other horrible things that you can be guilty of. Why are people so obsessed with this label of terrorism? And who's British and who's not British? And of course, Ricky Gervais mysteriously came up with a poster recently that he tried to get put on the London Underground, a picture of him saying, "Welcome to London, don't forget your stab vest." And apparently cancel culture got it cancelled. It was going to be an advert for his Dutch Barn vodka that he advertises, and that was not surprisingly not allowed. And then of course this happens. Horrific. Look, lots of people getting it wrong online, idiots sharing pictures from other incidents, pictures from years ago, and claiming that this is footage from Huntingdon. I've tried to tread carefully, and I hope we haven't made any mistakes tonight. Forgive me if so. And I'll try and go live again soon. I appreciate anyone that tunes in. This has been Lessons for Life, and we'll do it all again soon. We were here, and we are gone. Laters.